Howdy, Ags. Welcome to Aggie Growth Hacks, the podcast sponsored by the McFerrin Center for Entrepreneurship at Texas A&M, and we're dedicated to helping entrepreneurs improve their business, connect with other Aggie entrepreneurs, and support one another. I'm your host, Greg Martin, Fighting Texas Aggie class of 2001.
And I'm your co-host, Chris Hunter, Fighting Texas Aggie class of 1998. Whoop!
Well, we got a little story for you, Ags. Jennifer Devine, Fighting Texas Aggie class of 1996, is the owner and CEO of Devine Consulting, a fun-loving accounting firm that lives by their core values of fun, reliable, accessible, nurturing, and knowledgeable. And all of these are epitomized by their mascot, Flamingo Frank. Jennifer shares with us her entrepreneurial journey and how she and her team just love being in the thick of it with their clients.
So pass it back and listen up to Jennifer as she shares some really good bull.
Well, Jennifer, welcome to Aggie Growth Hacks. We are super stoked to have you. I love talking with numbers nerds, and we are fellow FP&A and just financial minded people. So, Chris, wake up. It is time to start Aggie Growth Hacks. But Jennifer, thank you so much for joining us. Super excited for you.
Thank you.
Well, it definitely is our pleasure. We love talking with successful Aggie entrepreneurs, fast-growing Aggie entrepreneurs. So tell us a little bit about your entrepreneur journey. Who is it that you serve? How do you connect with them? And tell us a little bit about your team.
So my entrepreneurial journey. So I guess I was always an entrepreneur. I was always looking at things like, oh, maybe I'll open a daycare because when my kids were young, or maybe my kids were in gymnastics, I could do that. And just along the way, I actually worked at a real estate development company here in the Houston area. I was their controller for 11 years, I think. And I really honestly just got bored. And we had this girl who worked on our accounting software, and she would come in, and for a lot of years, she asked me, do you want to come and work for me? And I was like, I don't know. Like, how many hours would I get? Like, what did it look like? And she really never could give me an exact, what would that look like? And so I just never went with it. I had 4 little kids. And so I was like, I just can't. And then one day she came in and she's like, well, do you want to buy my business? And I thought, no, it's just a personal place for me where I was able to go, maybe I do that. And so I did. I ended up buying, basically I bought some customers. And her company at the time was just accounting software. So she consulted on the accounting software. She did little projects for people. She worked on things. It was never consistent.
Okay.
And so I started doing that. It was just me, myself, and I. That was a little bit lonely. And it was also very sporadic because you just didn't know what you were going to do and when you were going to do it. And
kind of feast or famine.
It really was like you just didn't know. And so I actually ended up working for a company, and I'm a really hard worker, and they saw that, and like they were like, their controller quit, and they're like, can you help us out? And so it just sort of evolved. During all that time, I had another client, and they needed a contract help, and I was like, okay, well, my sister was looking for a new job, and I was like, she could probably come work contract you. And so at that point, is when I kind of started this journey of changing my business and what is it going to really look like. And I sort of took on this like bookkeeping side of things. And so she came and worked for that client, and she was working with that client contract. I was building up some bookkeepers. And then when that kind of was done, my sister then came and worked for me and did the bookkeeping side. And so then it was her and I. And so to kind of give you an idea though, like I started in 2011. Yes, 2011, August of 2011, and it was me. And so she's been here 11. So a few years later, she started with me, and now we're a team of 15.
Wow.
Great.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And it looks a whole lot different than it did when I started. But essentially, what I've always realized and told people is I sort of made what I did for this as a controller. I just made that my company. I worked with a lot of different companies there, and I had to service a lot of people in the company, and now I just service different clients.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So I have absolutely no idea what a controller really does I know it's financial and all that kind of stuff, right? But I imagine you had to really systemize what you're doing if you're at 15 employees doing that for other clients. What was the biggest thing that led to that? And how did you actually systemize that?
Well, a lot of ups and downs. So I think it's important for people to know, trial and error sometimes, right? Like this thing might work and maybe it won't.
Yeah.
But we started small and slow, and it was more bookkeeping. And so when I say bookkeeping, what I mean is we'd code people's transactions, any checks they cut, we'd reconcile their bank accounts, their credit cards. But I really wanted to become more valuable to our clients and kind of upstep that. And so when I say controller level, like, yes, we're doing all of those things still, but now we're looking at it from different angles. And higher level companies that just need a little bit more insight, or they need project reporting and they need to understand things better. So that's where we fall in. And we really do really well from yesterday to today. And then those CFOs, and we do, we can do some budgeting and planning, but CFOs then kind of take it to the tomorrow aspect. So yeah, we work with them on that.
Yeah. The way that I say this, and Jennifer, I'd love your opinion, is that a good controller and a bookkeeper, they're the ones that make sure that we're keeping score properly. Mm-hmm. Whether you like accounting or not, that's how you keep score in business. That's how you know what you're doing is meeting your objectives. But that's like when you're driving, that's like looking in the rearview mirror and saying, this is where I've been. Whereas the CFO is someone that's in the passenger seat saying, okay, hey, you need to take a left up here. We're going to run out of gas in 22 miles, and the next gas station's 2 miles away. Let's go get gas now.
I love that analogy.
They're much more forward-looking. So
yeah. So if you have a good combination, like we play in the space well together, we do, as that level, we're an accounting team, we're doing our job to help, the CFO or the owner of the business drive in the right direction to make those decisions.
That's right. Because Chris, we were talking earlier today about how you have worked so hard in your business to kind of systematize the operations. Mm-hmm. Yep. But Jennifer, what I've also heard you say is that financial systems, it's just that it's a system that can be systematized. And while all of the different industries might be a little bit different, you might have to do, good God in heaven, if you're an inventory heavy business, you better spend a lot of time there. If you're a service business, then you need to manage your people and make sure that is there, because those big, I don't call them expenses, I call them investments. Every company has an investment, and you either make good investments or bad investments.
Right.
And a good controller, a good financial team will help you systematize that so you know if those investments are paying off or not.
Yeah. And so we're now at a point where we're able to give our clients a team of people, right? So they're not just, our controller isn't putting in the transactions. We have a bookkeeper, an accountant, and a manager on the team for each one of our clients. Mm-hmm. So we're able to do that now. And I'm really excited about that. And I think it's really beneficial to our customers just because they get that level of depth from our whole team. And, sometimes our bookkeepers know how to utilize the system better than our control. You just don't know who's going to know what. But I think to go back to like Chris's question, it's like there's a lot of systematizing and a lot of processes that need to be in place. And when you're dealing with so many clients and customers, you have to have a way to track everything. So for us, we use a project management system, and everything we do for every single client is tasked out and assigned. And it's really great when you have some turnover because, okay, I have every single task that needs done. There's notes on how to do the task, and I just have to assign it to someone else. Mm-hmm. Or for heaven forbid, which has happened to us, we had someone go in the hospital. Like somebody's got to pick it up for the client. So, and that's also a benefit for the clients as well, because someone on the team will take care of it for them. They're not having to worry like, oh no, I have a person in the hospital. I don't know what to do now. Right. So we take that off their chest for them, that pain.
How do you identify the clients that work best for you? Or is there, so I think you said you started in real estate being the controller. Mm-hmm. So was it like an investment real estate company, or was it a real estate brokerage? Real estate's a huge term.
It really is. Industry. And we work with a lot of different industries. We actually stay away from like more manufacturing just because that's very heavy. It's not the inventory side of it so much, but the manufacturing side of it that gets really complicated.
WIP, baby. Let's talk Gap and WIP. Now you can go to sleep, Chris.
We do a lot of construction. I do, the nice thing is historically a lot of people that I worked with previously have started their own companies, and I have worked with them as well. So we do have developers. I have done property management, though we don't have any running right now, but we have construction, contractors, all sorts of those things. When you get in that realm, there's a lot of different reporting and information can be provided, but we also work with professional services and retail companies. It's more what we stay away from and less of.
Yeah. One of the things that we talk about here on Aggie Growth Hacks is, and because we are Aggies, what is one of the biggest things that you took away from A&M that you've been able to apply into your business?
Well, I think two things. One is really interesting is like, I feel like sometimes I'm one of the only people who actually do what they went to school to do. I'm an accountant and I studied accounting. But then it's also that like that spirit and that culture and that, making sure you're still trying to do the right thing. Because we can get really, I think for an audience, it's like we can get super frustrated about what we're doing and how other people are treating us. And like, I've come to work completely annoyed, like, how do I stop being so annoyed? And it's, and I think that was one of the questions you guys had sent out is like, how do you go back to your culture? Well, I'll explain my culture a little bit. His name is Frank. He's our flamingo. And Frank is our value. So it's fun, reliable, accessible, nurturing, and knowledgeable. And sometimes if we can just go back to the core of that and make sure we're doing it, it can lower that level down when we're not so mad. And okay, well, we're going to go do the right thing, even if somebody's not necessarily doing the right thing for us.
Okay, say those values one more time.
It's Frank. It's fun, reliable, accessible, nurturing, and knowledgeable. But Frank is the name of our flamingo.
Love it. And where did that come from? You just decided to bring a flamingo into the office? Where did that come from?
Everybody always asks me that. It's a little bit of a story, but I was in a networking group and I was like member of excellence or something like that. And you had to like decorate the table with something like as a centerpiece. And I brought this ginormous flamingo float, but it was so big, it took up the whole table. So I couldn't lift the whole thing. So it's just kind of like the head and the neck sticking out. And at the time, our logo was really just pink and a D and a C. It wasn't anything exciting. And then the next year, my sister was in that same networking and she won, and she had to do her and her husband dressed up in flamingo suits. It sort of just evolved. There's nothing like a flamingo in our world. Now I have flamingos everywhere, but it just kind of evolved. So our logo became flamingo, and I was like, well, he should stand for something. And then I came up with
Frank. As you've grown and as you've had those days that are challenging, and you're going back to Frank and you're saying, okay, well, here are the values that make this company breathe, that allows us to be able to make decisions and everything. Can you give us an example of one that like maybe it really did help you get through a tough time either within the industry or with a tough client or something for you to realize, what, we're living our values and we're going to be better for that?
Yeah, I mean, there's been some challenging clients where it's like, and to be honest with you, sometimes my team messes up too. We have to own what we do wrong and we have to make for it, even if it really costs us time and money to fix it. And I think that would be a perfect example of kind of going backwards and going, okay, but we really should. That's the right thing to do, even if they're mad and even if they leave.
Yep.
Like, because we did what we felt was the right thing to do for them.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got a question for you, right? When we're talking about your core values, are they really Frank values?
What do you mean by that? Frank values? Like being Frank?
I'm just being dumb.
I did have a little, when it was COVID, I did a little series called Let's Be Frank.
Oh,
nice.
There you go. Nice. Love that.
I might bring that back.
So let's dig into what has been your biggest challenge, right, in growing your company, and how have the Frank values, I'm going to call them that from now on, how have the Frank values, right, guided you through all of that?
Well, I mean, I think the biggest challenge sometimes is the people that you hire and people you bring in. And that's been challenging. I swear if it's going to happen, it's happened to me. Again, I'm going to circle back. Like sometimes you have to make hard decisions, but they're the best decisions, even if they're really difficult to make. Like maybe you have to let somebody go, but it's for the better of the whole. That's really where we have to go backwards and go. Like I've had to let people go where I feel like I really like this person. I really want them to work here, but it's just not the right fit. And so it's then, how do we part ways in the best way that everybody sort of wins out? And so I've had to do that. And, and trust me, even doing my own values is challenging at times. Like it's been, I've had moments when I thought, I probably didn't handle that really well. So,
but that's one of the things, the toughest thing about being an entrepreneur, being a leader, is to say, okay, I really like this person, but they're not the right person in the right seat. and we don't have a right seat for them. And so how do you, because at the end of the day, your business is your responsibility.
And the interesting thing is this happened last year to me. And if he listens to this, he'll know it's him. But you know what? Afterwards and down the road, everybody's better. He's better. He's happier. Like, we're all in a better place. And so as challenging as that thing is, and if you just kind of handle it in the right way, you all end up better.
Yeah. Love that.
But that is such a paradox, and that's so hard. Yeah. How many things in entrepreneurship is that same way? You know, I'm scared to take that first leap out. But then when I did, it was like, why in the world did I wait this long to do it? I'm scared to hire my first person, but oh my gosh, once I hired them, then it offloaded all this stuff off of me, and now I can do so much more. I'm scared to deal with conflict with a client, but the client's not a right fit, and yes. You're able to speak into that.
Oh my gosh, clients that are not the right fit are also a huge challenge. And sometimes, and I'm guilty of this too, like we kept them just because we felt like we needed to keep them because, the revenue or whatever, right? And they probably hurt us worse than just letting them go. And, we did an exercise a few years back that it was like, let's go through and who are our A-class clients? Because those are who we want to work with. Those who value what we do. And because, by the way, we're all human, we're all going to make mistakes. And they handle the mistakes with us in the right way. And so that's such a big deal. So things I would tell people is, one, don't be afraid to let a client go because it could be better for you and your whole team. You will probably be better off. And also don't be afraid sometimes to spend the money that you might need to spend to get the right people because they can take you and level you up to, where you really want to be.
Absolutely.
So describe the client that gets the most value out of you. Some people say, what's your perfect client? But I like to talk about it, because you're someone that brings value to them.
Yeah.
So who is the type of client that you could describe that gets maximum value out of your team?
Honestly, it's somebody who really wants to understand what they're doing in their business and respects what we can bring to the process and how you can go about it. I talked with someone the other day. It's like they want to challenge you, like we're in the automated age. We have to get automated. And so as scary as that is, putting receipts on somebody's desk doesn't work. And so they have to be willing to kind of learn and change with you. Like, I get it's scary, but if they're willing to make that leap, then we can get to the other side better. But it's more about the personality a lot and less about the company and the type of company they are. It's more about what do they want to achieve and how are they going to work with you?
And is that the business owner themselves, or is that the team that you're working with? Because those could be two different things.
Yes, it can be. Usually we're working with the business owner, but sometimes they do have a team of people, and they may fill different roles in the company, but that's also challenging because if they do have a team, they all have to be moving in the same direction. And it can be challenging if they're not moving in the same direction, or the owner's entrusted somebody who thinks they know everything and we're trying to move them in a different direction and that person doesn't want to.
When you're dating a client, or when you're prospectively going out and, you're talking, both of you saying, okay, is this a partnership we want to work through? Right. But what you described is really, really, really hard to pick up in a couple meetings before you sign the again. Okay, so educate me. How do you go through that?
You really have to ask those hard questions. Like, I have to say it all the time. They're on QuickBooks Desktop. Are you willing to change? I mean, that's an easy question. Yes or no.
Yeah.
But you can also tell just about, are they stuck? And what they say and how they're currently doing something. Well, I don't know if I can do that. It's okay if I have to explain it, but they still have to be willing to listen and make a change. And sometimes I get it wrong. I'm honest, but you can't pick up on things just in a couple of calls, because that's now primarily what I do is I do the sales aspect of everything. I don't do the day-to-day work. So it's also making sure you're asking the right questions in those calls too.
Yeah. And I love that. And as the primary salesperson for my organization, I totally get that, because you don't want to bring in someone into your organization that is a bad fit, right? Whether that's an employee or a client,
Right.
And you want to protect your team, because, at the end of the day, we got to retain our employees, right? And if we're constantly giving them jerks,
they don't want to, and
they're going to leave.
And it goes around the office. Everybody's talking about that client and they don't like them. And then then it has to change hands and who's going to work on them. And so-and-so made so-and-so cry because that's happened too. Like nobody wants to work with that client.
Yeah.
Nobody. Yeah. And so, and I had to tell a client, if you make one more person in my office cry, we're not going to be working together anymore.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And so then he started calling everybody, well, tell Jennifer I was nice to you.
How about you just be nice to me?
Yeah. Right.
I've known him way too long, not his personality.
That's funny. Yeah. We had a client once, by the way, that sent us a gift basket that said from your favorite PETA, right after he dropped a fire in our lap. So
at least they acknowledged it,
Oh yeah. I think his wife told him after he told her. I think his wife actually is the one that sent it.
Hey, there's a really good PETA charge. I upcharge people for too.
Oh yeah. Because
you kind of get a sense for that, and sometimes too. Like, they're going to ask a lot of questions. They're going to be really bothersome, so they're going to take a lot of time. So we're going to just up that.
Yeah.
If we're going to work together, I'm going to make it worthwhile for me and you.
Somebody told me that. Yeah. Just charge them enough so if they call you on a Friday night, you don't care.
I don't think there's enough money in the world for that. Well, Jennifer, one of the things that we ask every single one of our entrepreneurs that come onto Aggie Growth Hacks is, what is your moonshot? What is your big, hairy, audacious goal? Where are you going to be in 10 years?
Well, I've been trying to grow, obviously, to a certain revenue level. But, at the same point, I don't want to get too crazy big. My whole original goal was to hopefully pass this down to one of my 4 children. I'm not sure any of them want to be an accountant, though. So that's kind of gone out the window. But just really to kind of get it to, a more sustainable, higher level revenue number. And listen, I like to tell people too, like, I was working on a speech the other day, like success is what you define it as, not as what I define it as. I mean, I have become successful in my own view and probably what other people would think. I just want to level it up again. I have a company that, we don't have to take any client we want or don't want to take, right? Like we can be picky and choosy and we can get rid of some, we're in that position and that's a great position to get to. I hope my employees like working here. I mean, I'm able to give them benefits and what they need and have some flexibility with them. So I'm in a really good place, but there's always something to achieve later too. Scale up in revenue, but not necessarily in the people that we need to do it. So it's about being super efficient in the way in which you do things. So it's really training my team to kind of be a little bit better in the way in which they do things. Because accounting is all about a process. It's never about, we don't do difficult accounting. We just have to have a process to do it.
Well, and you're smart enough to know that one, accounting can get difficult, and things that I think is difficult accounting is probably really not. But literally, I'm such a nerd. I spent all day yesterday doing equity roll-up accounting because I'd never done it before. I mean, I got pretty close, and so when I sent it to our board member that is an accountant, he's like, yeah, that's pretty good, except for these 3 things. I was like, well, heck, if that's all I missed, then I'm stoked. It took me 8.5 hours longer than it should have. But
the problem that's happened with accounting is now you don't have to know how to do a debit and a credit. It's really good if you know it because you know what the system's doing, but all the software does it for you.
That's what I say.
You have to know how to put it through the software the right way.
I just say, it's like, I want this to go up and this to go down. I don't know if it's a debit or credit. And it's probably really bad for all my clients. They're like, and you're my CFO? It's like, but
just call me up. I'll do a T account for you.
Okay, so I want to riff on that for just a second because you did talk about, not knowing necessarily where you want your company to be for your BHAG, but then you also earlier talked about how everything's a system, but how are you specifically integrating the tools that are now available, AI, whatever? I mean, because that's really cool. And financial services, that's a lot of low-hanging fruit for that. But you're also dealing with very confidential information. And so, to me, I've been a little bit scared to kind of dip my toe into that world because I don't want my data getting out or my client's data getting out.
Well, I mean, you got to obviously work with reputable companies, right? Like QuickBooks Online. I mean, it's Intuit. They've been around forever. You know, your data is pretty secure. But I am not afraid of new technology. Matter of fact, I embrace new technology and what it can do for you. So we're always I probably drive my team crazy with, I have a new idea. Let's try this. But we were previously using an add-on to QuickBooks Online for reporting, and I found something so much better. Like, it's amazing. And so you have to really be willing to just try it. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But we've also, like, for us, we've sort of developed, they always talk about it, a tech stack. And I was like, I remember going, I can't just tell everybody what to do. But we've developed what really works for us, and we've become experts at those different products. So when something breaks, we know how to fix it. So I would say AI is kind of this animal, though, is like, well, what does it really do? What does AI really mean? And how does people really use it? Like, we obviously internally, we use it for writing something. I know my assistant uses it to get images or create images, and things for social. But it's a new animal, and we'll see where it leads. I'm not afraid of it, but I don't know that it's going to solve everything like everybody thinks.
I honestly, on the accounting side of things, I'm surprised that Intuit hasn't embraced, AI wholeheartedly into everything. And I know that's probably coming down the road, but
Well, it's more about like what you think about what is AI, right? Like even QuickBooks, like it learns, what did I do with the same kind of looking thing the last time? And it'll try to do that for you. But that's been embedded in QuickBooks for a long time.
For a long time.
Yeah.
So that's not really new AI to me. Or like even like bill pay software or AP workflow stuff. It's already reading most of the images for you. That's been around for a while. Like that's things it's not really new to us. It's more can it tell me where I'm supposed to book something without me having to think about it? I don't know.
Jennifer, well, thank you for kind of sharing that. I mean, it is super exciting to see how technology is going to impact all of our worlds, but really how I love how you embrace it and are looking for ways to benefit you, not only your own firm, but your client's firm for that. So we're in the lightning round. One rule, you got 1 minute to answer each one of these questions, but we'll probably have follow-up questions. So don't
Okay.
really worry about that minute, but that's the goal. So we are Aggie Growth Hacks. So Jennifer, what is one of your favorite personal hacks that we can learn from?
My personal hack is it better be on the calendar, that shared one that's in my phone that everybody can see, because I have 4 kids. I can't keep track of everything anymore.
Yeah, and that's one thing that Greg and I talk about all the time, right? And I call it blocking and tackling. You block it out on your calendar, and you tackle it whenever it comes around. So,
I tell my kids they know, if they don't put it there, I'm not going to know about it because it's not going to happen.
yeah, exactly.
Why'd you forget, Mom?
I tell my wife, if it is not in the calendar, it does not exist. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Jennifer, what is your favorite business hack? This can be a book, podcast, whatever, anything.
Well, I did want to mention, because I actually was on another podcast, and I think it's for your audience. It's also really good for them. It's called In the Thick of It, and it's entrepreneurs truly in the thick of it. Because I think we see a lot of entrepreneurs who have made it successful and sold off their business and made all this money. Okay, but how they do it?
Yeah.
Like, what's the real meat of it?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. How did you get from point A to point B, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a great podcast. I'm gonna have to check that out.
They're big technology people. I was on it, so listen to me.
There you go. Let's. Has your episode already dropped? Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well,
last year.
Well, we'll check it out. Check it out this week. What is the best bit of advice, and 96 bonus points if you can tell us how you applied it?
I would say spend the money when you can for the right things, because it can make a huge difference. I mean, I hired a girl almost 2 years ago now, and it was a very big investment, and she's been worth it and just really been my right-hand person since that point. And so if you can do that and get that right person, that really can help you get to the next level. Because if you never, starting your own business is a leap of faith, but there's other points where you have to go, I really need to do this. And you got to take another one.
All right. Next question, Jennifer. How can the Aggie Growth Hacks family get in touch with you and help you and support you moving forward?
I mean, I'm definitely looking to help more people. So if any entrepreneurs out there really need help with their accounting, I'd love to be able to help them, would be the biggest thing. But if not, happy to help anybody who just needs a question answered.
Is this a debit or a credit?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Who the hell cares? But Jennifer, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for making accounting fun.
Hey, that's our first value, fun.
And tell Frank that we miss him, and we can't wait to see him the next time y'all are up in Aggie land. But seriously, thank you so much for joining us.
No, it was great. I appreciate y'all.
Well, how about that, Ags? Was that pretty awesome or what? I know that I've got a whole page full of notes that I took from Jennifer. What was your biggest takeaways there, Greg?
Well, I'm the money guy, so I'm going to hone in on anything that she talks about when you're talking about investing. And I loved how she said to spend the money when you can for the right thing. And I've really kind of come over the last, 5 or 6 months, I've really come to realization that I'd like to reframe how entrepreneurs look at their budget and expenses. And I'd like to reframe it in the sense of investing. And I loved how Jennifer talked about investing in your people, investing in your systems, investing in your software, investing in your marketing, whatever it is. But if it's the right thing to do, it is going to help your business. Now, the tough thing is, how do you know it's the right thing to do? And you've got to have a lot of data, and you got to have a little bit of that entrepreneurial gut and a whole heck of a lot of that entrepreneurial faith to say, this is what we're doing. That's really what I took away. And I encourage entrepreneurs to look at it that way and to say, what is your business need right now that it needs? And how much does it cost to invest? And if you don't have that cash now, what's your plan to actually be able to invest? Because if you don't have that plan, then you're going to look up 6 months, 12 months, 18 months from now and be like, hey, you know what? We really need to hire that person. Well, it's because you didn't plan to invest in them that you're not there. So what about you, Chris?
No, I 100% agree with that. And over my entrepreneurial journey over the past 20 years, that's I've hit home runs, and I've a whole bunch of things that I'm completely whiffed on too.
Well, but also within the last 2 years, I've seen you invest so much in your people and in your business. It is going gangbusters for you.
Absolutely. And that's it's a big deal, right? And it is an investment. It's an investment in your time and your money. So I do 100% agree with that. My biggest takeaway has to be the flamingo, right? And and her acronym that she used for her core values, right? Frank the flamingo, right? And it made it easier for her and her staff to remember the core values, right? Which is fun, reliable, accessible, nurturing, and knowledgeable, right? So I think that having the biggest takeaway that I took away from Jennifer was that she was fun, right? She was a lot of fun to talk with. You could tell that.
I think I laughed the entire episode.
Yes, I don't think I've smiled as much in any episode, right?
But with an accountant,
with a bookkeeper, right? Exactly. Having one set your core values, and we've talked about this in the past, is having core values set, but making it into a fun acronym, right? That's awesome. I love it. And it makes it easier to remember for her and her team. So I love that. And having a mascot of the flamingo on top of it to make it even more fun is even cooler, I think. So that was my biggest takeaway there.
100%. I mean, we have talked so much about how values shape, empower, strengthen, and guide entrepreneurs along their journey. But to be able to make it personable with your team, to make it fun with your team, and to make it tangible is, that is so critical, because who needs stodgy values that are, they might not look nice on the wall, but if you don't live them, then what the heck's the point of having them?
Absolutely. Right. 100%.
Well, that's going to do it for this episode of Aggie Growth Hacks. We hope that you enjoyed it. And if you are not connected with Jennifer, do yourself a favor, connect with her. If you have any issues with your bookkeeping and want a bookkeeper and accountant that's actually fun to talk to, make sure you definitely reach out to her. We enjoyed it so much. If you're not connected with Chris or I or Aggie Growth Hacks, make sure that you do that. We'd love to get to know you, get to know your story, and maybe have you join us on a future episode of Aggie Growth Hacks. Finally, If you haven't done so, make sure that you subscribe to this podcast and give this episode a big Aggie thumbs up so that we can share this episode with a whole lot of other Ags.
We want to give a huge shout out to our sponsor, the McFerrin Center for Entrepreneurship at Texas A&M University. Since 1999, the McFerrin Center for Entrepreneurship has served as the hub of entrepreneurship for Texas A&M. If you're an Aggie entrepreneur or even a wantrepreneur, head on over to their website right now to find a program that's right for you. Just go to aggiegrowthhacks.com/McFerrin. Well, Ags, join us next time when we connect with another great Aggie entrepreneur and learn how they hack their growth. Until then, I'm Chris Hunter.
And I'm Greg Martin. Thanks and gig 'em.
Whoop.